Captain Alira Chen stood alone on the bridge of the Mercy Dawn, watching stars drift by the wide windows. Her hand rested gently on the command rail, but her heart felt far away, lost, with someone she hadn't spoken to in months. Dr. Anil. Rowe had once stood right beside her, every day, every mission. He was her closest friend, sometimes more. They had trained together on Earth, shared tea during cold space nights, laughed over silly jokes no one else understood. But after their last mission, he had transferred to another ship, the Hopes. Reach a research vessel far from the front lines. He had said it was for a better future, less danger, more peace. But to Alira, it had felt like being left behind now. She looked at the empty chair beside hers. It used to be his. The light from the stars didn't warm her anymore. The Mercy Dawn was a hospital ship. No weapons. No soldiers. Just doctors, nurses, and patients from every corner of the galaxy. Alira had taken this role to bring healing, not war. She had believed Anil understood that. Maybe he still did. Maybe she just missed him too much to see clearly. They hadn't talked since he left. Not even a message. And now, their ship was heading into dangerous space again. There had been a call for help an alien freighter under attack. They couldn't ignore it. Alira gave the order, approach slowly. Keep shields ready. Her voice sounded steady. Her heart did not. The medbay bustled as wounded aliens were brought in. Human and alien doctors worked side by side, treating burns, broken bones, shock. One alien child, a four-legged being with bright green skin, grabbed Alira's hand and refused to let go. "Are you the ship's captain?" the child asked in a small voice. Alira knelt beside the bed. "Yes, I am. You look sad." Alira smiled gently. "Do I?" The child nodded. "My sister left me once. I was sad. I thought she forgot me." "Did she come back?" Alira asked. "She sent a story. She told me about the stars she saw. I sent one too. Now we talk every week." Alira's heart ached. If a child could stay connected across the stars, why couldn't she? She stood, trying to stay strong. "Thank you. It's a good story." Later in her private quarters, she opened the old message thread with Anil. It had been untouched for months. Her fingers hovered over the console. She had tried so many times to write something. Every time she deleted the message. "I miss you." No, too simple. "Why did you leave?" No, too sharp. "We could have stayed together." No, too late. Then she looked at the child's drawing. The alien girl had given it to her, a picture of a hospital ship flying through stars, followed by a smaller ship with a heart on it. A simple idea, simple hope. Maybe she didn't need perfect words. Maybe she just needed to try. She typed slowly. "Hi. Anil, I hope your ship is safe. We helped an alien freighter today. One of the children reminded me of us, how we used to talk about the stars. I miss talking. I hope we can again. Stay safe. Alira." She sent it. Heart pounding. Hands shaking. The next morning, no reply. Then the ship shook. An alarm blared. "Unknown contact," yelled her officer. "Stealth field detected." Alira jumped to her feet, raised shields. Begin evasive, too late. Light filled the bridge. In darkness, her last thought was not of battle, not of duty. It was of a message sent out into the stars, and the hope that someone, somewhere, might still be listening. Admiral Juno Malik stood in the Earth Fleet Command Room, silent as the stars. The distress signal from the Mercy Dawn flickered on the screen, short, broken, and filled with static. But he recognized the voice. He would never forget it. It was Alira Chen. She had once been his student. Years ago, when she was just a young cadet, he had seen her passion for peace and her strength beneath it. She had risen fast, always calm, always focused. A captain of hope, a healer, and now gone, missing. Attacked without warning. The message ended with 5 simple words. "This is Alira. Help us." Juno felt something inside him tighten. It wasn't just duty. It was something personal. He remembered walking beside her in the halls of the academy, talking about the future, talking about how humanity could lead not by force, but by care. He had been proud when she chose the Mercy Dawn. She could have led warships. She chose a hospital. Now she was lost. The galaxy was quiet. The Galactic Peace Council gathered within the hour. Alien voices buzzed around the chamber. Some showed concern. Most did not. "There is no proof it was an attack," one delegate said. "Sending a war fleet may escalate tensions." Another added, "Juno remained silent, standing in his dark earth. Uniform eyes fixed on the stars above the open dome. They attacked a hospital ship," he finally said. "There were no weapons. Only doctors, patients, children. But retaliation. This is not about retaliation," Juno cut in. "This is about who we are." The chamber went silent. He continued, "If we turn away now, we tell every voice in the galaxy that mercy can be silenced, that healing has no shield, that kindness is weakness." He raised his eyes to the stars. "Earth will not send weapons. Earth will send memory and resolve." That night, Juno sat in his quarters. He looked at a small holopad, where a picture. Oh, Elira smiled at him. It was from her graduation. She looked so hopeful. He touched the screen gently. "I should have told you how proud I was, how much I saw of myself in you. And now, you're gone." He leaned back, closing his eyes. But something in him whispered, "She's not gone." He stood. Not all messages come through wires. Some come through choices. The Earth's defense fleet launched at dawn. Not a single weapon was armed. Not a single threat was spoken, but every ship was full. Full of engineers, medics, diplomats, and a few quiet warriors, trained not to strike, but to protect. Across human colonies, people watched the fleet rise into the black sky. Children waved. Elders saluted. No one cheered. It was not a day of war. It was a day of promise. Lieutenant Samira Vale stood on the bridge of the ESV Horizon, watching the stars blur past in warp travel. She was young, new to command. But she had studied Captain Elira Chen's peace missions during training. She had admired her deeply. "I read her journals every week," Samira whispered. "She made me believe we could be more than just strong. We could be good." She turned to her captain. "Sir, I want to volunteer for first contact teams if she's out there. I want to be part of finding her." Her captain looked at her and nodded. That's the spirit she believed in. That's humanity's strength. Back on Earth, in a quiet lab, an old message beeped. Anil Rowe sat up from his workbench. His fingers shook slightly as he read the sender. From Elira Chen's subject, the star's message. "I miss talking. I hope we can again. Stay safe." Elira's heart dropped. She had written. She had reached out. He hadn't replied in time. He looked. At the message again and again, she was out there. And she was in danger. He rushed to his captain. "I need to speak to Earth Fleet Command. I need to be on that search. Please." His captain blinked. "You're a research doctor." "I know." But she believed in connection. In peace, if she reached out to me, I can't stay silent. The captain nodded slowly. Sometimes love is quiet. Sometimes it moves galaxies, and as Earth's fleet moved through the stars quiet. Steady, full of hope, one message echoed silently. Between them all, we do not forget our own. We do not leave the helpless. And we will not be quiet when mercy is attacked. Because this was humanity, and humanity hears. Lieutenant Samira Vale stared at the wide screen on the ESV Horizon's bridge. Stars drifted by like slow rain. Each one reminded her of someone she hadn't seen in a long time. Elira Chen. Samira had only met Captain Elira once. During a peacekeeping seminar at Lunar Academy, but that short meeting had changed her. Elira had spoken with warmth, not just authority. She had said something Samira never forgot. Anyone can fire a weapon. Not everyone can heal a stranger. Now Elira was missing. The Mercy Dawn was gone. And Samira felt helpless, floating through the stars, chasing shadows. The fleet was moving slowly, scanning nebula fields and asteroid belts. The attackers had left no clear trail. And still, the officers searched. Samira pressed her hand to the screen, whispering, "I wish I had written to you. Just to say thank you. Just to let you know how much your words meant." But now she didn't know if Alira would ever hear her again. Far away, in a quiet medical ship called Hope's Reach, Dr. Anil Rowe couldn't sleep. The stars outside. His window looked peaceful, but his heart wasn't. He hadn't replied to Alira's message. He had waited too long. Now she was gone, and all he could do was wonder what might have happened if he had answered just a day earlier. He sat at his desk. The old photo of them from Earth's Academy resting beside his scanner. They looked young, happy, like nothing could ever separate them. "I should have stayed," he whispered. A quiet knock interrupted his thoughts. It was his captain. We received a fleet update. The attack on the Mercy Dawn came from a region near the collapsed nebula at Lyra 7. It's pirate space, mostly uncharted. Anil stood quickly. "Are they going there?" "Yes, carefully. It's a silent search. No threats, just presence. I want to go with them. You're a healer, not a fighter." Anil looked up. Exactly. So was she. The captain nodded. "Then go, and may your voice reach her wherever she is." Deep space near Lyra 7. The fleet slowed. Admiral Juno Malik stood aboard the command ship Valor's Watch, eyes sharp, hands behind his back. The ships made no noise, no transmissions. They simply moved like quiet giants, slowly closing around the nebula where the signal had last come from. No one knew who attacked the Mercy Dawn. The pirates were skilled. They erased their trail. But Earth's fleet didn't stop. They searched. Not with anger, but with calm precision. Juno believed something more powerful than weapons guided them, the will to protect. Back on the ESV horizon, Samira sat alone in her quarters. She held a pen in her hand, staring at the empty notebook on her desk. She hadn't used paper in years, but something about writing felt more personal now. She began to write, "Dear Captain Alira, I never told you how much your words meant to me. I never told you that you made me believe peace was possible. You made me want to help others, not just follow orders. I don't know where you are, but I know you're still out there, because people like you don't disappear. People like you keep the stars shining." She folded the paper, smiled gently, and placed it beside her bed. Then the call came. "Unknown anomaly detected." The bridge officer shouted. Samir rushed in. On screen, a field of twisted metal drifted through space, barely visible inside the blue mist of the nebula. "It's not natural," someone said. "It's debris, ship hull fragments." Juno's voice came over the Lloyd drones. "No entry until we confirm no hostiles." Samira watched as tiny explorer drones launched silently from nearby vessels. They flew into the mist. The room held its breath. Then one of the drones sent a signal. It found a piece of hull. The letters on the fragment read, "Mercy Dawn." Samira gasped. Her eyes filled with tears. "She was here," she whispered, and then another signal faint, hidden behind a coded encryption. It wasn't a voice. It wasn't a location. It was a fragment of a message. Life support minimal, survivor stable, power low, hope intact. It was her, Captain Alira Chen. She was alive. Anil Rowe received the signal too. He stared at the screen, unable to speak. His hands trembled, his chest tight with emotion. She had survived, even after all this time. Even after silence, he opened a new message and wrote with shaking fingers, "Alira, I got your message. I'm coming. We're all coming. You were never forgotten. You are not alone." And as the fleet closed in on the broken nebula, every ship quiet, every soul focused, humanity proved once again, they don't run from danger. They don't abandon the kind. They answer silence with strength and distance with devotion. Because when one human calls for help, humanity listens. Captain Alira Chen lay still on a cold metal floor. The lights were dim. The air was thin. She could hear the low hum of broken engines somewhere above her. The Mercy Dawn was no longer flying. It was trapped deep inside a hidden asteroid base. Surrounded by dark walls and guarded by silent machines, they had been attacked weeks ago. Their message had gone out. Then nothing. Alira didn't know how long she had been awake, or how long she had been drifting between sleep and pain. But when she heard quiet voices, she sat up. She was not alone. The survivors had found a way to stay together. A group of engineers, medics, and even a few alien patients had built a small shelter inside a broken medbay. They used what little power they had to run life support and basic lights. Alira became their center. Even injured, she moved slowly. Between the bunks, checking each person, giving quiet encouragement. "We're not forgotten," she would say softly. She didn't know if she believed it, but they needed to hear it. At night, when everyone else slept, she sat alone in a corner holding a small, cracked data pad. On its screen was the last message she had sent. "I miss talking. I hope we can again." She had sent it to Anil Rowe. Her friend, maybe more. He hadn't replied. She told herself he was busy. Maybe he never saw it. Maybe he had moved on. The galaxy was big. People drifted apart, but in the silence of that dark prison, his absence felt heavier than space. Days passed slowly. The pirates didn't speak to them. They brought small meals. They took away injured patients, one by one. No one knew where. They went. Alira tried to stay strong, but inside, her heart cracked more each day. "I should have said more," she whispered one night. "I should have told him I needed him to stay. I should have asked him not to go." She missed his voice. His calm questions. His quiet way of making her feel like she wasn't alone. Now she truly was. Then came a sound. A hum, different from before. A vibration through the walls. She stood quickly. Her team gathered around her. "What is that?" Nurse whispered. One of the alien engineers leaned toward the wall. "That is not pirate tech. That's precision. Quiet systems. It feels human." Lyra's eyes widened. Could it be? Hope returned like breath after drowning. Anil Rowe stood on a dropship above the asteroid base, suited up in armor he hadn't worn since training. He wasn't a soldier. But today, he would be anything if it meant reaching her. The fleet had found. The base, no weapons were fired. They had jammed the pirate systems. Drones moved in. Silent. Controlled. No deaths. No violence. Just clean, perfect entry. Now, it was time to bring their people home. As the dropship lowered, Neil gripped the handle tightly. His voice trembled as he spoke to the cum unit. "Alira, I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm coming. I'm sorry I didn't answer sooner. Won't be silent again." Inside the base, Alira stared at the wall. She heard something. Faint buzz in her ear implant. Then his voice. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't memory. It was him, she gasped, tears filling her eyes. Her knees weakened. "He's here," she whispered. "Anil is here." Everyone around her stopped. For the first time since the attack, Lyra smiled. The door opened. Soft blue lights filled the hallway. No explosions, no shouting, just quiet footsteps. Then she saw him. Anil stepped into the room, his eyes full of emotion. He dropped his helmet. "Alira," he said, breathless. She walked toward him slow, unsure. Then they embraced. No words, just warmth. Just hope. Later. After the rescue teams led everyone out safely, Alira sat beside Anil, inside the medship. She looked at the stars through the wide window. "I thought I was too far," she said softly. "I thought we were too far." He shook his head. "You weren't. I just needed time to realize what mattered." They held hands. The galaxy was still. Dangerous, still wide, but some bonds didn't break. Some voices still reached across the dark. Because when humanity chooses to care, they don't stop halfway. They go all the way, even into silence, even into fear, even into the stars. Dr. Anil Rowe stood at the window of the medship Aurora Wind, looking down at the asteroid base where they had found the Mercy Dawn. It still felt unreal. He had walked into darkness, unsure if she was alive, and now Alira Chen was sleeping. Safely just one deck below, she was alive, but the distance between them didn't disappear overnight. They were in the same place now. The same ship. The same stars. Yet it still felt like something stood between them. Not space, not silence, but something harder to reach. Words unsaid. Feelings left behind. Illyra woke slowly. The light in the medbay was soft and warm. Much better than the flickering cold lights in the asteroid prison. She turned her head and saw a nurse nearby, smiling gently. "Dr. Rowe has been checking on you every few hours," the nurse said. Illyra blinked. "He's here?" The nurse nodded. "Key was part of the team that found you?" Lyra sat up slowly. Her heart beat faster, not from fear, but from something else. She had dreamed of seeing him again. Now that he was near, she felt unsure. She whispered, "But why hasn't he come in?" The nurse smiled softly. "Maybe he doesn't know." What to say? Illyra looked down at her hands. She understood. She didn't know what to say either. Later that day, the fleet held a quiet gathering in the observation hall of the flagship. The survivors of the Mercy Dawn were honored. They were given food, comfort, and a moment of peace beneath the great glass dome that looked out into the stars. Illyra sat at a table alone, watching the stars swirl beyond the glass. Anil walked in and saw her. He froze. They hadn't spoken yet, not. Since the rescue, he had written messages, deleted them. Walked toward her room, turned away. He feared saying the wrong thing, or worse, he feared she didn't want to hear it. But now, seeing her there, he knew he had to try. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Hi," he said gently. She looked up, eyes soft. "Hi." He sat down slowly, unsure. There was silence. Not uncomfortable, but filled with weight. "I got your message," he said. "The one you sent before everything?" "I wasn't sure you saw it," she replied, her voice quiet. "I did. I didn't answer in time." She looked at him, eyes sad but not angry. "Why didn't you?" He lowered his head. "I didn't know what to say. I thought maybe you didn't really want to hear from me." She smiled, just a little. "I did. I waited." They looked at each other for a long moment. Then Anil said, "I should have been there. I should have stayed." Lyra shook her head. "No, you followed your path. I never asked you to stay. I just missed you." "I missed you too," he said. "Every day." They talked more that night. Slowly, carefully, like learning to speak a new language again. They talked about the past, about the days at the academy, about the quiet dinners after long shifts, about the silly little jokes no one else laughed. Then, Illyra grew quiet. "Sometimes," she said, "I thought you forgot me." He shook his head. "Never, I just didn't know how to go back. I thought the distance was too big." She looked out at the stars. "But somehow you crossed." No," he said gently. "We did." The next morning, the Mercy Dawn survivors boarded a new ship, the Aurora Mercy, a gift from Earth and its allies. It was brighter, stronger, and even more beautiful than the last. And this time, it would fly with quiet protection beside. It is a single human vessel, watching from a distance, never interfering, only guarding. Illyra walked aboard as captain once again. Anil stood at the ramp, unsure if he should follow. She turned to him. "Well?" she asked. "Will you walk away again?" He smiled. "Not this time." And he stepped aboard. In the heart of the ship, Illyra showed him a room. It was small, quiet with a view of the stars. "I saved this," she said. "It used to be yours. Before you moved away." He looked around, touched the wall gently. "It still feels like home," he whispered. "Then maybe it is." She replied. As the ship left the fleet and began its peaceful mission again, Lyra and Anil stood on the bridge together. They didn't hold hands. They didn't need to. Their hearts were closer than ever before. They had found each other again, not through force, not through anger, but through the quiet strength of what it means to be human, to keep hoping, to keep caring, to never leave someone behind, no matter how far they go, because even when the stars grow dark, humanity brings the light. Anil Rowe walked quietly through the bright halls of the new hospital ship, Aurora Mercy. Everything was clean, advanced, and peaceful. The walls held the soft hum of power and purpose. But inside, his heart still felt uncertain. He had come back. He had taken Alira's offer, but some part of him still felt distant from her, from the bond they once had. She smiled now, laughed sometimes, worked with focus. But they hadn't talked much since boarding the new ship. It was like standing next to someone on a warm day and still feeling cold inside. He missed her. And yet she was right there. Lahai Chen watched Anil from the other side of the med bay, moved carefully, checking patients, helping young nurses, always kind. She admired how calm he looked. But inside, she wondered if he regretted returning. They hadn't spoken much since the night of the ceremony. She didn't want to rush him. She didn't want to push too hard. But the silence between them was starting to feel heavy again. She walked out to the balcony overlooking the starfield. Ships passed by slowly, some alien, some human, many unknown. But Earth's fleet stayed near, always watching quietly. Alira whispered to herself, "He's here, but he feels far." News arrived from Earth that week. The rogue faction that had attacked the Mercy Dawn had been exposed by the Peace Council. Earth had shared proof, videos, communications, silent data gathered from their rescue mission. But Earth made no threats. They made no demands. Instead, they sent a message to every star system. We seek no war. We want no revenge. But we remember, we will not let silence be used to hide harm. We shelter those who attack the helpless. We will not trade. We will not speak, and we will not come again, not even to help. Earth will not raise its voice. Earth will simply leave. The message was quiet, cold, clear, and the galaxy listened. Within days, the pirate syndicate lost all support. Planets turned them away. Stations stopped serving them. Stolen tech broke without Earth's systems to keep it running. It wasn't a war. It was a reckoning. Anil stood on the bridge that evening, watching the stars. Alira stepped beside him. He didn't turn right away, but he smiled. "You heard the message?" she asked. "Yes," he replied. "They didn't fire a shot, but the galaxy changed anyway. That's how we do things now." He turned to face her. "That's how you do things." She shook her head. "No, that's how we do things." Then stood in silence again. Then Anil said, "Alira, I'm sorry." She looked at him, waiting. "I was afraid not of danger, but of being close. I thought leaving would make it easier. But the truth is, the more I moved away, the more I lost myself." Her eyes softened. I felt the same. I was scared too. I was scared to ask you to stay. Scared to sound weak. Stepped a little closer. "I think we're stronger together," he said. "So do." She whispered. That night they sat together in the ship's garden room. Plants from Earth grew under warm lights. A small fountain trickled nearby. Alira handed Anil a cup of tea. He laughed gently. "You remembered?" "I never forget the small things," she said. "Just like I never forgot you." They sat on the bench, shoulder to shoulder, and slowly the distance began to melt. The next morning, Aurora Mercy received its next mission: to respond to a disease outbreak on a neutral trade station. No politics, just help. Alira read the orders and smiled. Time to work. Anil stood beside her, ready, and as the ship moved forward again carrying peace, healing and quiet power, its human crew carried something else even stronger. The courage to rebuild connections, the strength to reach across silence, the heart to bring hope where fear once lived. Because even after loss, even after fear, humanity still chooses to care. Captain Alira Chen stood at the front of the bridge aboard the Aurora Mercy, looking at the starlight spreading beyond the glass. Round her, her crew worked quietly, each one focused, calm, and full of purpose. The ship was back to doing what? It was built for healing. Yet inside her, there was still one small ache. She had come so far, survived the silence, rebuilt a mission, found Anil again. But even now there was a little space between them. Like an invisible wall, neither of them knew how to fully break. They were close, it's still just out of reach, and that made her sad. Anil Rowe was working late in the ship's botanical lab. He liked the soft green light, the quiet sound of leaves moving under the fans. He had planted a small earth tree, heron olive tree, like the one near the academy garden where he and Alira used to talk. He sat beside it now, writing a note by hand. I see you every day. I walk beside you, care about you more than I can say. But there's still this silence between us. Not the kind that hurts, just the kind that waits. And I don't want to wait anymore. He folded the paper, unsure what to do with it. Should he give it to her? Should he speak to her? Or was it too late again? Later that evening, Alira walked past the lab. She paused when she saw the light inside. Quietly, she stepped in. Anil was asleep at the desk, the paper under his hand. She didn't want to wake him, but something pulled her closer. She saw the folded note. She hesitated. Then she gently lifted it and read the words. Her heart caught in her chest, so he did feel it too. That space, that quiet sadness. But more than that, he wanted to close the distance, and so did she. She sat beside him. Watching him sleep for a moment, he looked peaceful, still kind. She placed her hand over his gently. His eyes opened slowly. Alira, he whispered. I read it, she said softly. I didn't mean to make things hard, he said, sitting up. She shook her head. No, I'm glad you wrote it. I needed to hear it. They sat in silence for a moment, but this time it was warm, comfortable. Then she took his hand. I don't want to wait either. In the days that followed, something changed. They smiled. More spoke freely, sat together during meals, even laughed like they used to. The space between them was still there, but now it was shrinking. One evening, Lyra walked with Anil to the observation window. She looked out at the stars. No, I used to be afraid that we were too far apart, that the distance between us would grow and grow until I couldn't reach you anymore. He turned to her. I thought that too. But maybe distance isn't always about space. Maybe it's about time and trust. She nodded, and maybe just needed to come back to each other at the right time. They stood quietly, shoulder to shoulder. He smiled. So what now? We keep going, she said. We heal others, and maybe we heal us too. The next mission took them to a far world, one recovering from a mining accident. Hundreds needed care. Alira worked side by side with her crew. Neil helped rebuild a small local clinic. The alien children followed him around, calling him Tree Doctor because of the seed. Kits he carried. Elira watched him from a distance and smiled. He hadn't changed. He was still the person who cared more than he showed, and now, finally, they were close again. On the journey back, Neil left something on Alira's desk, a small olive branch from the lab's tree. Wrapped around it was another note. Said we were light in the dark. Maybe we still are. This time, let's not drift apart. This time, let's grow together. She held the branch in her hands, her eyes soft. She didn't need to write a reply. That night, she met him at the garden. No words. Just a quiet embrace beneath the soft lights of their growing tree and far above them. Stars burned silently, watching as two hearts found their way back. Because humanity doesn't only fight. They don't just build ships or send fleets. They care. They return. They rebuild broken things. Not just with hands, but with hearts. And even across great distances. Humanity reconnects.